This weekend, Imsa heads to Indy. Yes, that same Indy that hosts the iconic Indy 500. But instead of on the oval, this race will take place on the road course. It's produced some great races over the past few years, and this year looks to be no different. Here are 5 storylines to follow at this year's Battle on the Bricks. Can Lamborghini make magic? This weekend at Indianapolis, I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on Lamborghini and their SC63. No, I don't think that Lamborghini are going to come out here and win this race, but could they build on some of that pace that they've shown glimpses of at times with the car? I think they could. Last year in the rain, the SC63 looked like a rocket ship. They passed a Porsche for the lead in the wet, and they actually led some laps. And while they wouldn't end up finishing that race, they spent a lot of time in the top 5 and really looked like they were taking a step forward with the car. Now sure, it was a wet race, and maybe that was just some one-off pace, but we could also be in store for some wet weather running again this weekend. And it's not just that, the SC63 led laps in the last race that they competed in at Watkins Glen as well. And no, there wasn't any crazy weather or some crazy tire strategy that led to them leading laps in that, although there was some crazy weather in that race. They had genuine speed and they led those 23 laps in that race on merit. They took a big step forward, in my opinion, in that Watkins Glen race, and I could see them continuing that momentum forward here into Indy. Again, is it going to be a win? That's probably pretty unlikely. But could they walk away with the surprise top 5? I think they could. And hey, if things go their way, maybe we get a little bit of weather that rolls through. There's no reason that we couldn't potentially see the SC63 with a JDC type run of last year and finish on the podium. Now the SC63 may only have 2 races before that program is put on pause, but that doesn't mean that they won't be pushing for that big result. Like I said, I'll be keeping a close eye on them this weekend. Grid updates. This weekend at Indy, there's going to be a number of notable entries who are missing from the grid. The first big one is Proton Competition and their Porsche 963. The team, which had only been entered in the 5 Michelin Endurance Cup races, got into a hard accident at the 6 Hours of the Glen. The accident seems to have caused enough damage that it will keep them out of this round at Indy. And with the absence of the 5 in the GTP class, it means that we'll only see 12 GTP entries this time around. Another entry that'll be absent is the number 83 Iron Dames Porsche. They were forced to miss the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen after Michelle Gadding fractured her foot in pit stop practice for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. I don't think that there's any doubt that this is a pretty big loss for the grid. Despite the Iron Dames only being entered in the Michelin Endurance Cup races, they are still a major fan favorite, and deservedly so. They have such a great presence at the track with fans, and just not having them at the track is going to be a loss. Hopefully we'll be able to see them return for the season finale next month at Road Atlanta. Magnus Racing will also not be on the GTD grid. The long-time Imsa entry announced that they'd be reducing their involvement on the grid this year due to bronze driver John Potter's work commitments, and that appears to be happening here as well after they returned earlier in the summer for the 6 Hours of the Glen, but will miss this round at Indy. And while there are entries that won't be on the grid, there is a notable return to the grid in the GTD Pro class, as the 75 Express Mercedes will return to the GTD Pro grid, with Kenny Habul leading that effort, with Brock Feeney and Mikel Grenier also behind the wheel. This will see the return of that number 75 Mercedes for the first time since the Rolex 24. Now, in addition to these storylines that I'll be following this weekend, I also send out a bonus storyline to the S's newsletter subscribers. I'll be sending that along with everything you need to know for this weekend's race. You can subscribe to that for free by heading to offinthes's.com or clicking the link in the description. Can BMW do it again? 1 year ago marked Imsa's first breakthrough with their M Hybrid V8 in Imsa. I mean, sure, they won the 2023 Salem 6 Hours of the Glen, but that was only because the 6 car was disqualified after failing post-race tech. In my eyes, the Battle of the Bricks last year was BMW's first true breakthrough in GTP, and they did it in style by finishing first and second in the race while leading 61 laps between their 2 cars. Fast forward a year and while BMW have taken a step forward this year, they've yet to truly take that step forward into a proper championship threat. Don't get me wrong, the M Hybrid V8, like I said, has taken a step forward this year, and the stats certainly back that up when you look at them. But they still have another step forward to take if they want to truly be in the championship fight with the likes of Porsche. Heading into this weekend, the 24 BMW finds themselves 181 points behind the championship leading number 6 Porsche. So you could say it's make or break time for them. And with Team RLL only having these 2 remaining races in the season, with that M Hybrid V8 program, you know that that's just going to be an extra chip on their shoulder to try and come out and back up last year's 1-2 finish in Team RLL's own backyard of Indianapolis and try and claw their way into the championship fight heading into Road Atlanta. BMW have been strong here the past couple years with 3 podiums over those 2 races, so you could certainly see them doing it again, and BMW are certainly going to be ones to keep a close eye on this weekend. Championship fights in full swing. Speaking of the championship fights, those are going to be on display front and center this weekend in Indy. Let's start off with the GTP fight, and it's important to remember, while some of these gaps that we're going to talk about seem initially large, a poor result can change things in quite a hurry. This weekend in GTP, the difference between getting maximum points, aka getting pole and winning the race, and minimum points, which is starting and finishing last, is 176 total points. So keep that in mind when we look at the gaps. The number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsports 963 leads the number 7 by just 75 points, so that is within that point swing. With the number 24 BMW M Team RLL M Hybrid V8 181 points back. So while BMW can't catch Porsche this weekend, unless if one of the Porsches doesn't start the race or something crazy happens like that, Porsche will come away with the points lead heading out of Indianapolis, but BMW is going to try and close the gap to them. Then you also have the 93 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura, who are still in the picture, 213 points back, but the number 10 Cadillac Wayne Taylor Racing entry, well, they're 311 points back, and it's looking pretty unlikely for them at this point. LMP2 sees the same 176 point swing as GTP, but the first and second place entries are definitely closer together. The number 99 AO Racing entry leads the number 22 United Autosports entry by 107 points, with the 74 Riley 211 points back in third. The 43 Inter Europol and the number 11 TDS Racing round out the top 5 there. GTD Pro likely sees our best championship fight brewing this weekend and sees a potential point swing of 165 points. At the top, it's just 53 points that separate the number 3 Corvette Racing by Pratt Miller Motorsports Corvette and the 81 Dragon Speed Ferrari. Those two have been locked together for much of the season. The number 77 AO Racing Porsche, last year's champion, is 191 points back, so they're going to need a couple of very good races to round out the season if they want to have a chance. Well, the 64 Ford and the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW round out the top 5 there. And then there's GTD, and this is where things could really get interesting. You see, this is the largest class on the grid for Indy with 18 entries that will be on the grid, and that means there's a 242 point swing available, and that means if a championship leader finds trouble early, then things could get very interesting. The 57 Windward Racing Mercedes leads the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin by 171 points, with the 12 Vassar Sullivan Lexus 239 points back, the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW and the 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche rounding out the top 5 there. But like I said, a 242 point swing means that the Heart of Racing could very well be within striking distance here if Windward Racing finds trouble early. Now, in addition to these championship battles, there's also the Michelin Endurance Cup to keep an eye on this weekend. I'll talk about that more in the race preview, so make sure that you're subscribed if you're not already so you don't miss that video. The Michelin Pilot Challenge Championship fight. Now, it's not just the WeatherTech Championship that's going to have some championship fights to watch out for this weekend. I'd say the battles that we're seeing unfold in the Michelin Pilot Challenge are even better. Early on, it looked like the GS class was going to be locked up early after the RS1 Porsche of Jan Halen and Luca Mars finished on the podium for the first 5 races of the season, which in a class that usually consists of 20 to 25 cars is pretty darn impressive. However, they would go on to struggle at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and Road America, which really closed up the gap in that championship. Continuing on their roller coaster of a season, though, they would naturally bounce back from those struggles and win out at VIR last time out. It was their 3rd win of the season, and it means that heading into Indy, the number 28 leads the 39 Carbon with Peregrine Racing BMW and the 13 Macumbi McAleer Racing Mustang by 240 points. Like the GTD class, the GS class will also feature a large grid this weekend of 25 entries, so much like in GTD, if you're one of the championship leaders, you want to make sure you stay out of trouble and avoid a disastrous race. It's going to be a fun battle to watch in GS though. And while there's still a bit of a lead in GS, the same cannot be said for TCR. There, it's about as close as you could get. The 76 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai has been leading the standings for much of the season after picking up 2 wins early on. Now, while they haven't been on the podium since Mid-Ohio, they've also been able to avoid any disastrous results so far, and they're going to be looking to right the ship this weekend in Indy and try and get back onto the podium. And they want to do that because their sister car is breathing down their neck. The number 98 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai is just 20 points behind the 76, and like the 76, also have a pair of wins to their name. The big difference here, though, well, they've had a couple of poor races that has really weighed them down. Also right here in the hunt is the number 93 Montreal Motorsports Group Honda. 2 of their first 3 races of the year were awful, but the rest of them, they've been pretty darn great. Apart from the 12th and 15th place finishes in class that they got in those 2 of the first 3 races, they finished no worse than 4th the rest of the way. And in doing so, they have pulled right up into the championship fight. All of this just goes to say that while most of the focus is going to be on the 6-hour battle on the bricks this weekend, definitely don't be sleeping on the Michelin Pilot Challenge race on Saturday. There's going to be plenty of great battles to watch for there, and you can catch it all on Saturday at 12:40 p.m. Eastern. Something else that you might want to check out ahead of this weekend's race is all of the recent Imsa news, and I have a video recapping all of the summer Imsa news right here. Huge shout out to all the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offintheesses or become a YouTube channel member by clicking the button below. Once again, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.